Show notes. You know, when I have show notes, I might go long on a topic. I've been known to go sideways on a topic. I've been known to go long and sideways. That's controversial. But mostly show notes keep me on track, because here at the Church of Elvis and Even More Latter-day Saints, which I'm the founder, pastor, spiritual advisor of, we don't like to do edits. We certainly don't like to spend a lot of time doing edits after the video's done, okay? Our favorite thing about doing these videos isn't the content, which is amazing, isn't making the video, okay? It's interacting with all y'all. That's our favorite part. That's why we do this. Now, this weekend, we covered a topic, and it got pretty intense here. And that topic was Pitchfork's top 150 albums of the 90s. And look, there was some anger, there was some tears. We had emergency breakout meetings. And before I get to that, because it was the weekend, I get this a lot when I'm interacting with the community and I'm doing things. People come up to me like, hey, Rev, it's Sunday. It's the Sabbath. It's your Sabbath. Why are you working? It's a day of rest. I'm always blown away by that, because the Sabbath at the Church of Elvis and Even More Latter-day Saints is not a Saturday or a Sunday. The Sabbath for the Church of Elvis and Even More Latter-day Saints is a Tuesday. More specifically, Tuesday afternoon. And I'm really blown away people don't know that, because our modern schools are doing such a poor job of teaching numerology, ancient history, and something I'm an expert in, ancient mathematics, okay? Because if you look at the long arc of human history, of humankind, our biggest leaps, our biggest progression happened on Tuesdays, okay? Farming was invented on a Tuesday. Language was invented on a Tuesday. Stonehenge, designed on a Tuesday, built the following Tuesday. The thing you put garlic in and you press it really hard and the garlic comes out and you got to scrape it off, invented on a Tuesday. Tim Apple, born on a Tuesday. We know, empirically, we accept these things, okay? But we know there's a mathematic connection. We just haven't figured it out yet. That's why I built this religion, this church, because we're not just a religion, we're a research institution, okay? Now, if you see us post a video on a Tuesday, we filmed it another day, so don't be alarmed, okay? So I just want to get that out of the way. Now, our topic of the day, I had to remind everyone, because it got so tense discussing this topic here at the compound, that this is just a list. Now, we do power rankings, okay? Power rankings involve much, much more advanced analytics and metrics that most people at Pitchfork would never understand, okay? But Pitchfork did do this list, okay? It's just a list, like, hey, look at these records. But there's such a glaring hole on it, it kind of ruined the whole thing. Now, Pitchfork took 7 months with their great writers and their great editors to come up with this list. Now, I want to get the controversial part out of the way before I get to my big glaring hole. Hole was number 5, Live Through This, okay? That's a good album. Courtney Love is a good artist, great songwriter. Live Through This is not the number 5 best album of the 90s. It's just not, okay? And in comparison, here's an album. Number 16 was PJ Harvey, Rid of Me. By the way, Dry didn't make the top 150. That's outrageous. If I open this list and Rid of Me by PJ Harvey was number 1, I would have blinked. I would have been like, yeah, totally see that. I saw PJ Harvey early on those early albums. She's one of the most remarkable artists of the last 40 years. Unbelievable. Those shows punched you in the throat. Her band was incredible. She's an incredible musician. She can take any stereotypes you have or didn't know you have, stretch them, bend them, distort them, break them, and put them back together in the same set of songs, the same show. She's very small, and there was so much power, but an awkwardness sometimes that she used for power. I can't explain it. Made you feel awkward, but she's using it for art. She is a pure artist. And I met her and she was very charming and very nice. A normal person, but a remarkable artist. So when I compare that whole album to like Rid of Me, PJ Harvey has demo albums that are better than some of these albums in the top 25. So it's just a little bit of comparison. But the big glaring hole of this list that kind of ruins it is the fact that Sugar, Copper Blue didn't make the top 150 albums of the 90s, which is insane because this made many best of lists, if not album of the year, on many lists the year it came out. I feel like this list in some way, I can't put my finger on it, was graded on a curve where intentions, which were good intentions of the artist, were rewarded more than the whole art. And an album that puts intentions and topics with the music, with the power, with the emotion is this album. Beast or even more, but I think that's an EP. How this didn't make the list was insane. You spent 7 months coming up with this and you didn't have that in your top 150. That's a top 10 album of the 90s. It's insane. Here's a few others though that didn't make the list that kind of surprised me. That should have been on. Teenage Fan Club didn't have a single album in the top 150. That's insane. Teenage Fan Club had multiple albums that were albums of the year lists. Crazy. Whatever you think of them, Oasis, definitely maybe, was a top 150 album of the 90s. I mean, come on. I think maybe it was the Britpop bullshit and drama that maybe didn't get some of these on. Blur, Modern Life is Rubbish is a top 150 album. It might be a top 50. If you don't like that one, Great Escape is a top 150. It's a bit insane that those weren't there. I think Ride Nowhere, as it's aged, is definitely a top 150 album of the 90s. Frank Black, Teenager of the Year, that's a top 150. Come on. Jesus and Mary Chain, Honey's Dead, that's a top 150. So some kind of glaring holes. So we're going to do a rapid fire. And I'm just going to say where I thought something was interesting or maybe should have been up and down. I won't say it should. When I say it's up and down, it's comparison to other albums on that list. And I won't slag albums. That's not what we do. But I think there's some that could have been higher and some maybe can be lower. Tom Petty, 129, Wildflowers. The only reason I bring up this Tom Petty one is it's pretty much the only kind of like boomer artist that made this. So I thought that was interesting. There was very few. Maybe these guys aren't boomers per se. 118, U2 Octum Baby. I think that could be higher. That's my favorite U2 album. It's one of their best, easily one of their best. So I thought that was a little low. 115, Arthur Russell, Another Thought. I'm agnostic where it should be, but I'm glad it made the 150. It's exceptional. 111, Green Day Dookie. The reason I point this out is that if you have Green Day Dookie in your top 150, but you don't have Sugar, Copper Blue, something's wrong with your process. 107, Smog, Knock Knock. Should be higher, way higher. 106, Tortoise, TNT, too low. Should be higher on the list. 101, Built to Spill. I'm just glad that it's higher than Modest Mouse. I don't need to get into that. 98, Smashing Pumpkins, Siamese Dream. I don't listen to Smashing Pumpkins. It's not like I don't like them or like them. I don't have any Smashing Pumpkins. I just thought that was surprisingly low for an album that was that big and that influential. 91, Weezer, Blue Album. The reason I'm pulling out the Weezer Blue Album is, again, in comparison to some albums that didn't make it that I mentioned earlier, that's insane. Also, Pinkerton didn't make the top 150. And that, to me, is their best album. And in time, I've listened to more Weezer Green than both of those albums. Just a little side note. 89, Sonny Chirac, Ask the Ages. Now, as you know, our first blessed entry into the Church of Elvis and even Modern Day Saints is Sonny Chirac. We love Sonny Chirac. And so I was very happy to see him in the top 150. It's an exceptional album. It could be ranked higher, but whatever. 88, Sonic Youth, Goo. Too high. I think Sonic Youth, Goo would be on a top 200, top 250 list. Goo. Others, obviously Sonic Youth have amazing albums, and I love them. But that one's a bit high, I thought. 83, Slint, Spiderland, too low. 77, The Roots, Things Fall Apart, way too low. 73, Yo La Tango, I Can Hear Your Heart Beating. Very happy to see that. It's the only Yo La Tango album that's on the top 150, which is a little surprising, but I think it could be higher. 70, Pavement, Slanted and Enchanted. I'm going to get to that one later. I'm going to come back to that. 63, REM, Automatic for the People. Too high. I like REM, but that's too high. 44, Stereolab, Emperor Tomato Ketchup. Way too low. Way too low. 33, Talk Talk, Laughing Stock. Fine where it is. I just want to bring this up because that's an album that should get a special pressing. If we're going to talk about audiophile pressings and so forth, that's an album I'd like to see done because that is a gorgeous sounding record. 29, Pavement, Crooked Rain, Crooked Rain. So, Wowie Zowie did not make the top 150, which it should have. Pavement's one of the few bands, Radiohead and some others, that had multiple albums. I think people worked backwards on Slanted and Enchanted when they heard Wowie Zowie or they heard Crooked Rain, Crooked Rain. I was surprised how low. I don't care that Pavement's at 29. You could have Crooked Rain in the top 10 and it'd be totally reasonable. But I do think, and I'm going to die on this hill, that Pavement and the overall in the 90s is the most influential band. That album and Wowie Zowie had more impact than people realize, particularly in Europe. But it's something else happens with Stephen Malkmus that's interesting. 26, Boards of Canada, Music Has the Right to Children. Again, I don't have a problem with the ranking. It's just I'm glad it's there. Considering some of the other holes, I was worried it wouldn't be there, and it's there. Incredible album. 25, Belle and Sebastian, If You Are Feeling Sinister. Really good album. I'm just surprised how high it is. I think with time, Belle and Sebastian has gotten more and more appreciated. I can make the argument it might be a little high, but I really, really like that album. 21, Silver Jews, American Water. This shocked me how high it was. It shocked me and made the top 150. And I was thrilled to see it because I did another video. I'll link to this list and I'll link to my other video. I have a special, special place for David Berman. I think he was a remarkable man of words and wrote good songs. I don't know if it needs to be that high, and Stephen Malkmus is obviously an important part of this album, but I was happy to see it. Number 4, Liz Phair, Exile in Guyville. It's not my favorite Liz Phair album, even though I love it. The reason I love Liz Phair a lot. She is whip smart. She is talented. She's really, really incredible. It's just I thought that was a little high for her, considering her other albums didn't make the list. One particular one I'm thinking of that should have been in the top 50 easily, even if you want to put that one. But I thought that was a little high. Lauryn Hill, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, number 2. When I talk about art, intentions, message, all in the same package coming together, that's this. If this was number 1, I would have been fine with it. It is a remarkable album. Really, really good. Number 1, My Bloody Valentine, Loveless. Obviously, choice. Don't have a problem with it. Hyper influential. That record changed my life, the way I listen to music in some ways. So I figured it was going to be number 1, but I get it. I get it why it's number 1. So just wanted to point out, kind of tongue-in-cheek, playing how bad this list is, but missing out on Sugar Copper Blue is inexcusable. Hope you had a lot of fun. And Pitchfork obviously does these lists for us to interact, which is great. I'm glad they do that and have a lot of fun when they put out a list. So have a good rest of the day.